everyone. Today I'm here at Aviation Festival Asia and I'm joined with Andreas Slettvoll, CEO of CHOOOSE. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
So firstly, could you tell us a bit about your new partnership with JetBlue and what you're doing here?
Yeah, sure. It was actually announced, yesterday, Europe time, so earlier today here. It's a very interesting partnership because it's a SAF first. So it's effectively a consumer solution where their travelers can opt in to effectively inset, not offset, but inset their calculated emissions with sustainable aviation fuel. So we're really excited to see where that can go with JetBlue, and also see kind of how does effectively the consumer base react to something kind of new. In this setting, there's loads of professionals who know SAF, but what about my sisters or mother or father? How would they react to that? So we're very excited about that.
Absolutely fantastic, and we'll come back to SAF a little bit later on. So secondly, could you explain your partnership with SAP and how the client app will help corporate travellers reduce their emissions?
Yeah, so the work with SAP, it's kind of a close relationship with a co-developed climate app with SAP Concur that is offered to their corporate customers. So what we see, especially from kind of the corporate side, meaning the end user in this context, is the need to A, understand their emissions, and B, have the ability to act on it. It's very hard to manage what you don't measure. So it's really kind of a fine-grained tool in order to understand emissions. But then also with CHOOOSE, you also have the opportunity to then act on those emissions with kind of a wide portfolio of underlying climate solutions. So that can be offsets, removals, etc. But they, the corporate customers, they can actually build their own portfolio fitting their needs, which can be compliance-driven, semi-compliance-driven, or completely voluntary. So a very interesting kind of solution in order to kind of access the broad base of users from SAP Concur.
Absolutely, it's a really interesting angle to be coming at it from that sort of corporate traveller side, because that's such a, as we all know, a huge part of the industry.
Yeah, and especially we see that it's very much reporting driven. Like, yes, people care, but they actually need to care due to kind of stakeholder needs, etc. So an interesting integration as such.
That's great. So looking towards the APAC region now, what trends are you seeing in this region with regards to discussions on sustainability? Is it different from others sort of globally, or?
It's a little bit of both. I think, the recovery here from the post-pandemic recovery has probably been a bit rougher than what we've seen in parts of the Western Hemisphere. So that kind of impacts it. What we see now, and I just came from a session with Malaysian Airlines, they've been working super hard for the last 2-3 years and kind of really, I'd say, almost leapfrogged. So I think the trend is quite clear. It's creeping up on the agenda more and more and more. We experience kind of a clear pull from the local market here. And I think, all things sustainable aviation fuel, it's kind of, deep pull from every region of the world. But my experience so far, it's kind of really moving up the agenda quite fast. So, it's the reason we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think an interesting dynamic to it is that a lot of, or some of the areas in the APAC region are sort of set to be the worst affected by climate change, sort of looking at islands and that type of geography and those pressures that come with it. So they perhaps have a slightly different incentive around it, as well as, like you said, the sort of corporate incentive or social. And
yeah, I agree. We've seen parts of the same in Latin America as well, where you see kind of the big airlines are really forward-leaning and really want a solution that is also kind of with a local foundation as well. So be careful to kind of compare too much, but it's the same sense that it's now when the recovery kind of is done, I think it will escalate in importance very, very fast. So hopefully.
That's great. So finally now, returning to sustainable aviation fuel, like we were speaking about at the start, could you talk to us a little bit about carbon capture's relationship to SAF? Is it complementary? Are they in some ways contradicting, or?
Yeah, to us it's not either or, it's yes and. Sustainable aviation fuel is extremely important, but it's extremely limited because you actually reduce the emissions, at the literal exhaust pipe. So we have to get that production up and running. So that's number one. But it's not everything, right? And it's not necessarily available today. So what do you do in the meantime? So, we're big supporters of the long-term goals, but we're extremely focused on what you do today. And that's where, carbon offsets, carbon removals have an incredibly important role to play. But it's both. So to me, they're 100% complementary, and you actually need both in order to reach net zero. And today you can do, offsets, to a certain extent insets with SAF, but this will be like this over time, where more and more SAF comes online, and then the need for offsets will go down. But it's a yes and situation.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you for speaking with me today.
Great meeting you.